I don't actually know how to address the Department of Basic Education's leader, her head. I don't know her name, the head of the Department of Basic Education. I don't know how to pronounce her surname, so I will just say, hey, DA, Democratic Alliance, help us. Are you aware that April is Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month? Do you realize that we don't live with autism only for a month, but we live with it for the rest of our lives or for the rest of our children's lives? I am speaking as a desperate mother who is unfortunately extremely aware of autism. I have children who have different levels of autism and different problems, different comorbid problems, different different conditions that come with autism. And I have a plea. I have many problems. But my greatest thing is I'm a homeschooling mother. I was a homeschooling mother by choice in the beginning. And I've happily homeschooled and educated my older two children. But then I also have four children, two adopted children and a set of twins, 5 years old, 10 years old, and 9 years old. One problem: three of them are autistic, four of them have ADHD. I'll begin with my child who I wouldn't inflict on the education department, one who I will always keep at home. Are you happy to be here? And last but not least, the first one to be diagnosed officially, the first one who presented extremely obviously from a young age, my boy, currently 9 years old. Can you imagine what that's like? Probably not. And that, I think, is part of the problem. You can't imagine what it's like because you don't live it. You don't live with it. You don't have siblings who have it. There aren't enough of us who have it for you at the top to think of making a proper difference. We've read a lot about teachers who have been fired from their posts, teachers who have not been given posts. Why aren't you opening schools for our children? Here's the thing. Here's what you should be aware of about autism. There is no one shoe, one size fits all. This autistic is going to be different from these two autistics. There are certain traits that are global, universal, but they don't all have all of those traits. And within the spectrum, they might have sensory processing disorder. One might be sensitive to a whisper. The other one might not hear a shout, not respond to a shout. We need schools that take that into account. Uniforms are a no-no. How can we put autistic children in a uniform? What about those children who don't like certain material, who can't handle, not they don't like, they can't handle certain fabrics or seams or lengths? What about those who don't want to expose their legs, but the school uniform is short? Let our children be free to wear what is most comfortable for them. But firstly, there are no schools anyway. Before I even discuss uniforms, there are not enough schools. We have been begging and begging. In 2022, we even walked to your offices. We handed over a memorandum begging for more schools for our children. Where's the action? The minister's first name is Siviwe. We have been heard. Nathi sicela ukuviwa. We also ask to be heard. To help us, we need schools, learning centers, therapeutic centers for our children, affordable ones. Here, where I live, I'm in the Bloberg area. There's no government school for autistic children in my area. As I said, I've got 10-year-old, 9-year-old, 5-year-old twins, and my 10 and 9-year-old are developmentally, like intellectually and developmentally and emotionally, they're not their age. They're not age 9 and 10, they're younger. So we've got that problem. We have no government school in our area. This right here is a man who came to our home. He's a plumber. He lives in Milnerton, which is very close, so therefore we're in the same area. Same problem. He's got a child, my twin's age, 5 turning 6 this year. No centers, no schools. Both of us applied to go send our children to a private learning center for autistic children, Michael Academy. The fees were exorbitant. We were going to have to sacrifice a lot. And that was just to be able to put one child in there. How many autistic little ones did I say I have? 3. But the fees are beyond for many people. For most of us, the fees are, just the basic fee was 6,000 and something per month. So we went on the waiting list, planning or wondering how we would actually afford it. We went on the waiting list. We've now aged out. It only goes up to age 5. So it's too late now. We were on the waiting list for 2 years. They never took our child because it's a small place or whatever other reason. They didn't take any of our twins. He did send his child there, but it's too expensive. They were paying 8,000 Rand to have the occupational therapy, speech therapy included, because their son, like one of my twins, is non-speaking. They do say, both of them, when they want something, raisins, juice, grapes, but that's it. They don't say my tummy is sore, my head is sore, I fell. There's nothing like that. There's no mom, no dad, nothing except when I want something. How they're feeling, we don't know. And so both our children are non-speaking, basically, and both our children are the same age, and we've encountered the same problem. They sent the child there, but then the fees were too much. They couldn't handle it. They have other children too. So they had to pull their child out of the school. So then we are both here. Here we are, autistic children at home, not by choice, but because we have no choice. He tried to send the child to a school in a different area, and they said, nope. You don't come here, you don't fall here. The government is very strict. Only children within our area are qualified to come here. So we have no government schools. And then the private schools are extremely, extremely expensive for most of us. Thirdly, there's the uniform issue. Autism, if you really know it, and if you really care about those who are autistic, you know that they've got sensory processing issues, as I said, fabric, seams, even colors that they might not be able to handle. The feeling of material, the length or the lack of length of material, all of those things. That means some autistic children who could afford that school can't go because there's the required uniform. Surely if we have additional needs, we should have additional allowances as well. The allowance to dress our children in what is most comfortable for them. So we have no government schools suitable, no government schools at all in our areas, and I'm sure many others. We have private schools that are not affordable. We have private schools who insist on a uniform. Then we have private schools that say the children must be potty trained. My 5-year-old she can't tell that she is urinating. She's not potty trained. There are quite a few are not potty trained that I know of. And because they are not able to communicate in any way, signing, nothing, they can't focus on pictures, there's no communication, then they can't be potty trained. And my girl is also intellectually impaired. We can't even test how low her intellect is because the autism, as the neurologist said, is all-encompassing. So potty training, she doesn't fit in many schools. And then, as I said, ADHD. They have ADHD. What does that mean? Busy, talking when they shouldn't be talking PDA. My one autistic twin has PDA, and my other son, my 9-year-old son, has pathological demand avoidance, which means they're not going to be sitting still. Because number 5, then they also say your child must have only mild to average intellect. That gets rid of my 9-year-old now. So my 5-year-old who doesn't speak can't go there because she's not potty trained. Her intellectual ability is lower than mild to average. My 9-year-old son, boom, he can't go there either because he has global developmental delay. He is impaired intellectually, in speech, in everything. So he can't go to that school either. So where then are they meant to go? One, even if they can afford it, the rules are too strict. They basically want the easiest children. We don't really need a school in the traditional sense of a school. We need a center where they can learn how to cope with sound, learn how to cope with different textures. It can be a therapeutic school with no education whatsoever. You can teach, as they get older, physical skills, like practical skills. They don't need to be able to recite the alphabet. We just need you to help us reach their potential. So there we are. That is our problem as parents of autistic children. We have nowhere to send them.
Use those teachers who are now jobless, unemployed. Use them to teach our children practical skills, just even life skills. I have to teach my 9-year-old how to button up his clothes, how to align it so that he doesn't button the lower button up, in the second hole, and then have it all higgledy-piggledy. Our children can learn. They can absorb. We just need them to have the opportunity to go and learn.
And as a sick parent of an autistic child, homeschooling, because I have to, has been detrimental to my own mental and physical health. It is much harder than that. And I'm dealing with it while unwell. So unwell that my rheumatologist already told me last year that I should not be teaching anymore. She even said, okay, how about you come to Durbanville? Because in Durbanville, Sherry School would suit my daughter. Where's the money to move? You can't buy houses, houses don't just fall out of the tree, out of the sky. So I'm begging you, be aware that those teachers who you've taken jobs away from could be useful to us. You could, I don't know wherever you're expropriating land from, though that you say you haven't expropriated any land, please build proper centers, safe centers, where all types of children will be cared for and helped, nurtured. We don't need them to be potty trained. I worked in the UK at an adult center for disabled adults. Some had Down syndrome, some had autism, or were autistic, depending on where you stand on that phrasing as well. And we had a sensory room where we would take them and calm them down. Quiet, small, dark. And then the teacher to pupil ratio was basically 1-to-1. And each child, they felt like our children because intellectually they weren't mild to average they weren't of mild to average intellect. They were severely intellectually impaired. So they felt like our children, even though some were older than us. They were not potty trained. We changed diapers of huge, young 34-year-old men, and I was in my 20s. 2 of us, we went to change them. We had a table there. We can do it. It can be done. So we would change their nappies. Like in hospitals, it's done. We changed them. We changed men. If there was no woman available, changed sanitary towels of ladies. It can be done. So I don't know what I'm hoping for. The private schools have their own reasons why they're charging so much. All I can do is ask the government to do something for us. We don't need awareness, we need help. We need action. And we need it today, please.